Hello everybody, Isabella from Pride Tire here, and welcome to another instalment of our antique garments in my collection. Well, temporarily in my collection because I don't really keep them. Well, today I have a real treat for you, and I do realise that I say it at almost every instalment, but today is a little bit special. Well, have a look at this beautiful Edwardian bodice. It is stunning. In a reasonably good condition, actually quite a good condition. So we're going to have a look at this a little bit more in detail in a second. So, well, actually, let's dive in as it is. The bodice, most likely an evening, well, not evening, afternoon of visiting bodice, though might well form a part of a rather formal day attire, but it's quite showy. It's made out of silk satin, so the very delicate pastel silk here, and it's in a pretty good nick. There's no wear, with amazing applique. It's again an embroidered chiffon and beaded applique on the bretelles and on the front panel. The front panel is decorated with Pintucks, and again the applique, and very fancy sort of ruffle chiffon. Now, interestingly enough, the front panel is not attached in any way to the layer underneath, which is an embroidered net mounted onto the glazed lining, I think, or silk satin. I'll have a look in a moment and I'll have a look inside. The collar is just one layer of the silk tulle with satin binding and more of that funky little ruffle, and it's not supported by any kind of wire sob or boning as usually you would see. The sleeves are again decorated with Pintucks on the outside sleeve. Let me move it a little bit further. So all the outside sleeve is just layers and layers of Pintucks, showing you how effective a decoration it actually created. It's really simple to make. It takes a little bit more fabric than the usual sleeve, but the effect is quite striking. And the undersleeve is just plain. Again, we have a cuff with that little, quite damaged here, not surprisingly, ruffle, and you can see a bit better the applique. Let's move to back. I think there are two layers. I think it's silk. Yeah, the silk net layer, silk layer, and then glazed cotton lining. So as you can see, there are only two hooks and bars for the collar. There's nothing to strengthen it or keep it upright at all, which is quite unusual. And the bodice closes with hooks and worked bars. The bars are quite beautiful. I'll get some details for you in a second. And again, a similarly Pintucked panel with the beautiful chiffon ruffle and applique. The belt is just basically, let me see if I can undo it, hooked on. And again, it's just a very soft layer of gathered satin and lining with a little hook to keep it on. It also closes with hooks and eyes and has boning. You can see the boning is mounted here. But let us have a look if yeah, the belt can be completely taken off the bodice. It's just hooked on. You can see the bottom of the pleats. The bretelles are not attached at all at the top. They are very loosely stitched, and I mean very loosely stitched with huge stitches underneath here. And just like the belt, they are formed out of one layer of lining and pleated. Again, huge stitches. Look at this. Really huge stitches of flimsy silk thread, just pleated. And they're attached here with one stitch, and then again at the bottom. But apart from that, they are not held up in any way whatsoever. It is extremely small, as you can see. The mannequin is 22-inch waist. The bodice just about meets there, just about, but it doesn't overlap enough to, actually maybe, it will close here, over the bone, but not over the chest. And similarly, the belt. So the waist actually is not too bad, but the ribs and chest, although quite substantial on the dummy, were definitely in a different realm here. Or maybe just a wider back, difficult to say. It was obviously made to measure or made bespoke. But still, this is a 22, let's add another inch, 24-inch waist, which is quite small. Not very small and not uncommonly so, because if you look at the corsetry at that time, the figure was mostly achieved through a lot of padding, both in the hips and in the bust area. And to achieve a waist of 24, well, my waist is 32 inches as it is, but with a good corset made to me, I can get it down to about 25 inches, which means my corset is 22 inches with a lacing at the back. So it really depended on how much squish you have. I've got a lot of squish, obviously, but it all depended on the body shape. It is really striking. I'm really sorry that not to see what kind of skirt would be worn with it. I can obviously have a few guesses, but let us take it off the dummy and have a look at the details inside and outside too. Right, let's have a look at it and more details. As I have said, the belt is completely detachable and it's lined with quite dirty, age-dirty glazed cotton. Let's take it off. There you go. The front has those Pintucks with beautifully worked bars, and the bretelles are just attached with a few stitches. That's it. The silk is a little bit discoloured here, obviously in front, and quite a lot at the armpit area, obviously, and under the bretelle, which is a pity. It's still quite wearable, unless you don't look very closely under the armpits. But obviously it was worn quite a lot. Let's have a look at the detail. The applique is really stunning. And the ruffle. Really beautiful, just pleated chiffon. Very, very nice. And the back, again, amazing workmanship on those bars. The baggage is sort of half bound, half faced with additional strip of cotton with a constructive dart here that has been left open to flow the contours of the body at the back better. Let's pick off the bar completely. And the inside. The seams are left untreated. There we go. Just notched to follow the contours of the bust, but not finished in any way whatsoever. The shoulder seams are hemmed quite roughly, mostly because the net would be fraying quite a lot, so that would prolong its life. And the sleeve, the arm side, is again quite roughly whipped around to protect from fraying. The side seam is finished quite nicely with a bone with very basic flossing, and the bone is really attached with just a couple of stitches. Still survived for quite a long time, so why not? The centre backbone is stitched on by machine. Mostly it missed stitches here, but again it stayed on, so that counts. So altogether we have 6 bones in a whole bodice, plus a back bone of the belt. Again, a nice way of putting your bones in with a zigzag stitch. It doesn't show much. The hooks are nicely covered by a strip of linen, and they're all in very good condition. And you've seen how lovely the bars are. The hem is faced, and the pleated panel is additionally folded under and stitched on. And we have a loop here as well for, not really hanging, possibly attaching to a corset hook so that it doesn't really ride up too much. That would be my guess. And the collar, again, just a layer of tulle. It's very stretchy, so I'm not sure how much it would stay in the correct position on the neck. And it's binding, but it's applied binding, so it may just be folded bias tape. It's applied with just a few stitches. Yeah, it is folded bias tape. So a rather fascinating piece of garment history, really. Really beautiful piece. I really like the sleeve. I mean, it is such an easy way to decorate with just Pintucks. And they're not... Well, they're regular, but they are not absolutely perfectly regularly spaced. For example, you can see this here is much more than here, which may be a strategic effect for the elbow area, but it decreases more. But these ones are much shorter as well than these two, so it possibly has been done just gauging by eye, really. And the belt doesn't even have front bone. Nothing fancy, but looks fancy, and that's what really mattered. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. think this one is going to a museum at some point to be on a nice dummy and shown to public. I've taken a lot of photos, so I have it for my archives. And I possibly will take a pattern of it as well, because you never know, I may start fancying Edwardian stuff at some point. Usually it's not the period I really enjoy, but never say never. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and see you next time.